Today, we're going to do our first live in a series about biomechanical and paramedical horse training and how to really get in touch with your horse. So it's going to be a series with Elisabeth Van Ross from Normandy Equine. We're going to do this as often as we can. Liz is very, very busy, but our goal is to bring you, the equine enthusiast, the horse owner, the person who owns or rides horses, but is struggling. Maybe you're even a little bit scared to get on your horse or get near your horse, or um, as long as you have a passion for horses, you are in the right spot. We're hoping to give you every single time we get on this Facebook Live, give you a little tidbit of knowledge, a little nugget that you can take back to the barn and try out with your own horse. But first of all, because our heart is for you to really get in touch with your horse, it's we're asking a question, and if you could please put in the comments what your answer is to that question, that would be fantastic. So if you could change anything about your horse, what would it be? If you could change anything in your horse, what would it be? Right? So that is a question. Answer it in the comments. That would be fantastic. And then the topic of today's live is going to be: the secret to your horse is you, with the subtitle, Laying the Mental Foundation. So Liz is going to talk about that. She will be on in just a minute. She is delayed just a tiny bit. But in the meantime, we can just talk a little bit about other things as well. So Liz has been doing a lot of research for 30 years. She is just so valuable in this. Her heart is for the wellness of the horse, the wellness of the equestrian, and really to change the paradigm of how we treat our horses, how we see our horses, how we train our horses, how we train ourselves, and really make it a better world for all of us. So I hope she's coming on soon. But in the meantime, this gives you all a chance to get on the stream as well. Liz, there you are. Fantastic. I'm going to move my microphone a little. Actually, I'm going to plug in my microphone. So awesome. Well, I a little here. We are live.
Excellent.
And so yeah, do you hear an echo?
Just a little bit, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, and now I can see even better.
It's better?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I put my glasses on. That always helps.
It helps. I couldn't take mine off. I mean, that would be disastrous. I wouldn't know where I was. So I'm so excited that you're here.
Well, me too. Really and that's you see in the background who's leaving and taking my dog with him. Thomas, off you go. Anybody? So sorry about all
that. Is, I have to say, I didn't say that yet, but Liz actually is in Normandy, France, and we all should aspire to go there and visit, do a clinic at her place. So anyways, I was explaining a little bit that yes, you have you're a treasure of wealth, of health. You know so much about the horse, about the biomechanics of the horse, the mental wellness of the horse and the rider, and our topic today is amazing. So I'm asking the people whether they come, whether they are on the replay or live with us today, to put in the comments, first of all, where they're from. Perfect. Your name, of course, because we're on Facebook. And the answer to the question: if you could change anything in your horse, what would it be? Just answer that in the comments, and that would be great. And then if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments, and we'll get to that at the end of um, of what Liz is going to talk about. So without further ado, Liz, it's up to you.
Great. Well, what we're going to talk about today is sort of the rider mindset. So a lot of people will be thinking, well, rider mindset or anything that is doing with horses, that we're going to be talking about the horse itself. But what I found over my years of working with horses and working with horse people is that, you know, and I know you've read this before and you've seen it before, people have dedicated huge amounts of their work to this, is that largely the problems stem from the human being, not from the horse. The human being is the one that makes the decision to involve the horse into his, her life, whether that was for transport in the past or the wars or you know, conquering different territories, whatever it might have been. It was never the horse's idea to do any of this. So now we've changed, obviously, the way that we use horses, and we involve them in our lives because we want to have companions, because we love horses. We want to do sport with them, a very huge amount of different sports. And of course, you know, there's the whole business side of it where people are making money from exploiting horses. So the people I'm really interested in are the people who love horses, who have a horse or possibly several horses, who can be anywhere from a beginner rider to a top level rider, who are looking for something different, that they've applied what is currently available and they've had some measure of success, but there's still a lot of tugging, a lot of pulling, a lot of difficulties with the horses, the lightness, the balance, the ability that the horse should have, the ease, the flow that should come from riding is not there. So they're still attaining very high levels. They're getting good scores at shows. They're able to compete, you know, but yet they're a bit stuck. There's still something not quite there. And then at the other end, you know, it might be somebody who's just starting out with a horse, with that lovely idea of it's going to be wonderful and we're going to be madly in love with each other and this horse is going to be fantastic. And then all of a sudden you come across a little bit of a problem. And I think, Monique, you can kind of really relate to that because you've dealt with a lot of horses in your life. You've had a lot of success with horses, yet your latest horse, your current horse, has posed some problems, some problems that have emerged between the two of you that need to be resolved. So this is what we want to discuss, is not just the science, because the science will come later, but the mindset of the rider. So the rider has to be willing to change. And discussing things with Monique, you know, at first her interest was piqued and sparked, but there wasn't a huge amount of like, oh, tell me more, tell me more. And then as we grew to know each other, it was like, oh, well, that sounds interesting, tell me more. And then it was like, oh, really, tell me more. And then she opened up to the idea that, actually, this is really fascinating. So it does take a little bit of time to let go of your old thoughts and feelings about horses and be willing and ready to take on the new. And that is not for everyone. This is specifically for people who are ready to move beyond what is currently being taught. So that's really the whole plan of what we're planning to present to you. The second step being that once we've discussed this, once we've discussed what this actually means, you know, in terms of exercises that we will give people to do and different things that we will present to them, we will then take the biomechanics side. So the biomechanics, a lot of people are out there, I've said this before, you know, if you've seen me on these videos before, you know that there's a lot of people out there doing amazing work. They're doing incredible research. They've got massive amounts of knowledge, yet there is a massive gap between that knowledge and the ability to apply it and make it understandable, not just to the rider, but to the horse. It's the horse who has to understand it. He's the one carrying the rider. He's the one doing the work. And if you're doing the work for the horse, then you might as well get off and put the horse on your back and get on with it. But I say that, I'm just laughing, but sometimes, you know, my riders really put in far more effort than is needed, because really, if they, as they learn to communicate what they want to their horse rather than muscle dominate or manipulate muscle mass to try to get it to respond, their lives becomes so much more pleasant with their horses.
Right. I think I have a really good example for that. With one of my previous horses, he came to us. He was a lot greener than we thought, and he went from more or less a city and nice green everywhere situation to the high desert, where behind every rock and behind every sage bush could be a mountain lion, right? Especially in his mind. And in the beginning, I was micromanaging him because I felt his tension. So I became tense and he felt my tension, and it turned into this spiral. And it was a will of the mind to let go of the reins, let go of my legs, that made him then feel, oh, she's relaxing, I can relax. And we had a wonderful time trail riding after that. But it was a mindset.
Yes, absolutely. So the biggest problem I find with my new riders is that I make them stop using their legs, stop using their seat, and drop the rein at first. This is the first thing that they've got to be able to do. So this is really unnerving. And I have very high level riders that can do, you know, I'll say to them, okay, I would like you to show me, and they're expecting me to want, you know, piaffe or passage or shoulder in or leg tempi changes or something of that nature. And I say, well, I'd like a circle. And they look at me quizzically, and they will perform the circle beautifully until I say, right, okay, now do the same thing, but drop the contact, take your leg off, and let your seat be quiet. And then the horse just falls apart. So this is where we go back to this idea that it's the rider doing the work and not the horse. So the rider hasn't done his job. The rider has learned how to ride, and the rider has learned how to micromanage the horse, but he's not learned how to teach the horse how to make a circle. And this, if a horse cannot make a circle on his own, and if a horse cannot hold a straight line on his own, two things that are totally not natural to horses, you're building your entire career, whether that just be hacking out trail riding, or whether it be dressage or show jumping or cross country, whatever it is, it would be like equating mathematics to teaching the student that 2 + 2 = 5, and then wondering why there are not the successes or the easy successes that you think that there should be. So horses must learn how to do these very basic things, and they must be able to do it themselves. You know, a dressage horse needs to be able to make a circle to the left and to the right without the help of the rider. The rider should just be quietly saying, by looking slightly to the right, that's it. No leaning, no yanking, no pulling, no inside leg to outside rein, none of that. All that needs to just go. There's none of it is needed, which I'm sure if you're listening, some of you will be going, oh, you know, that's totally not what I've been taught, and oh no, this is rubbish, or your heart will palpate because you'll think, no, it's not right. Who is this weird woman telling me this? It is simply just this idea that you know, the rider has to let go of that responsibility, but then be taught how to teach the horse to do it for himself. And it is so pleasurable to get on a horse that makes a circle because he knows how. And so pleasurable when that horse is finished making that circle that he goes on a straight line and stays on it. He knows how to hold himself on that straight line. And for show jumping, oh my God, how much more pleasurable could it be to just say to the horse, right, there's the jump, you hold the line, and because I've taught you how to make a straight line in balance and rhythm, you just do the work, and all I have to do is sit up here and help you a little bit if needed. Everybody just like that? I mean,
you make it sound so good that I want to hop on a horse that can do that. It's almost like in a dream world. So how do your people, I don't think I've ever asked you this, but how do the people that are on those high levels and really learn that, how do they perform in their next show?
Well, at the moment, just to give you an example, I'm dealing with horse ball is extremely popular in France. So I have quite a few horse ball clients who come to me with, now a lot of these horses have just been picked out of fields and, you know, taken off the racing tracks because they're cheap. Horse ball is not a recognized higher level sport, so there's very little money to be made within that sport, but it's growing. So, but a lot of people just have these incredibly broken horses that they're trying to do this very difficult sport with. So I'm two of my top level horse ball riders who are really struggling with their horses, one of which the back of this horse has kissing spine. So and she's 14 years old, and was, when I first met her, I call these the hamster brains. So the brain of the horse is going so fast all the time that it's like that hamster on a wheel that just never stops. It just goes, and you know, you can't put your leg on it, you can't touch its mouth, you can't do anything because it doesn't understand communication. It just understands, right, you've given me this job and I'll just do it and I'll go as fast as possible. And you know, so both of, so that was one horse, and then the other one was a thoroughbred mare that had come from a show jumping background. So she had a broken axis, most of them do, which means that the horse breaks at C2, C3. You see it's classic, you see it all the time, you see it throughout magazines where the ears to a sort of hump in the middle of the neck goes up this way, and then the rest of the neck goes down. So it makes this kind of shape, which has now become accepted. And that is, you know, comes from draw reins or heavy-handedness, where the horse is so constricted by the rider that it gives at C2, C3. So it learns how to just use that part to flex rather than higher up. So she'd had that problem. And again, you couldn't put your leg on without her exploding. You couldn't, you know. So what they've now, well, the Garriguette, the 14-year-old, has just been to the Horseball Championships, and they had lost, that team, every single game of the year. So went to, I know this is going to sound really mean, but they went to the championships for all the teams that were the worst teams. So just to let you know, so we're starting to build things up. But they came second. This is after, so after a small input, you know, I had about a month and a half input where I worked the horse once a week, and she was the star of the show, and without her they wouldn't have won anything, but they got second place.
Wow.
So that was really good. And then the other one is on a male team. Now they are actually champions, and this horse, everybody looked at him and thought he was absolutely crazy. And now he's being offered, every time he goes to a game, somebody wants to buy the mare, and not just buy her for cheap, because she's so responsive, and no spurs. You know, all the others, they've got big spurs, they've got draw reins on in the warm-up, they've got massive bits. She's in a simple snaffle, no spurs, and she is the top horse on that team. And she is so reactive because she has learned how to communicate with her rider, not just be dominated by her rider. So those are two really big wins recently, you know, and I've had loads of others, but I don't want to bore everybody to this. But that's just sort of recent, within the last few days.
Beautiful. Wow, 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 wow. I think that is an excellent. We have been at it now for about 15 minutes.
Okay.
This is a great thing, a way to wrap it up. I'm gonna just do a little bit of housekeeping. We are actually gearing up to do Facebook Lives 2, 3, 4 times a week. This week, tomorrow, Liz is traveling, and then afterwards, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, she'll be in Lyon, France, doing a clinic. And during the clinic, if there is any reception, we will do a live every day at around noontime, her time. So this is about 8 o'clock in the morning, I think. No, well, we'll do her lunchtime and early in the morning here. So if you can catch it live, that would be fantastic. She'll give us a little bit of insight what she does during the clinics. We will continue with the Facebook Live after that as well. And we have decided that ultimately we're going to give away some prizes as well for those that interact, that get on our Facebook Lives, whether it's the replay or the live. Put in the comments where you're from, how many horses you have, what kind of horses you have, what you would change in your horse if you could change anything. Write your questions down. Let us know how we can help you. And ultimately, the person that interacts the most at the end of the month, we're going to look at that, and that person gets a free critique that you can send us a little video of how you ride your horse, and Liz will give you tips on what to do next with your horse. So, and you want to give someone some homework about getting the horse out of the stall?
Yeah, so in this idea of changing your mindset about your horse, now I talk in stories quite a bit. So this little story I find very interesting about human beings is that, let's say you go to a buffet, and when you get to the buffet, and poor Monique's heard this story a million times, but you get to the buffet and it's beautiful. There's like everything that you could possibly imagine. But human beings tend to be the kind of animal, if you like, that will look at the one thing on the buffet that they don't like, and they will concentrate on that, and to the point where it will ruin the rest of the buffet for them. And then they will go and tell their friends, oh, don't go to that restaurant because I went and that buffet had that one thing I didn't like. So, and we tend to do this. So what I'd like you to think about is taking your horse out of the stable, or even leaving him in the stable, or going to see him in the field. Mine live outside 24/7. And just look at them, and then start to think of all the things about that horse that you like, whether it's the color, whether it's its shine, whether it's the fact that its muzzle is soft, whether it's its shape, or you love its curiosity, you love the way he or she comes to get their treat, you love whatever it is. Find a list, find whatever it is, and start writing lists of everything about that horse that you like, and stop concentrating on the things you don't like, because the more you concentrate on what you don't like, the more that's what you're going to get. So that's the first assignment for anybody listening. And I'm a human therapist as well. I work on, I do sports massage on humans as well, and I give them assignments all the time to stretch or to do a certain exercise, and I'll only give them one at a time, because I know what human beings are like. You give them 2 or 3 and they're definitely not going to do it. But they resist. They will not do the one exercise that I give them. And then I see them again and I put them on the table and I start working, and I go, you haven't done the exercise. They'll say to me they have. I say to them, so have you been, oh yes, I've been doing, and I put my fingers in the muscle and go, no, you haven't. And they go, oh, I didn't have time. And so this is part of this mindset, is that you cannot get what you want if you're not willing to put in some effort. I don't believe in putting in a lot of effort into something without thinking first. So this is part of it. This is us getting you ready to be ready to make a change in your horse's life and yours. So get out there, spend some time with your horses. And the other thing, and Monique does this with her horse, she just spends time with them. She just will take a cup of coffee and go in to the field and sit on a chair. And a lot of people do this now, and it is brilliant. You know, let your horse come over. He may ignore you, she may ignore you at first, but eventually curiosity will win out. And just go and read your book and drink your cup of coffee and just be with them. And then when you're done with your cup of coffee and you've looked at him or her and admired how wonderful they are and beautiful, then you just leave them there, and they'll go, you know, they'll be so shocked because you haven't wanted to take them out and do something to them. You've just come to be with them. So those two things, okay? So be with your horses without having to brush them, without having to ride them, without having to do anything. Just be with them and then look at them, really look at them. My grey Lusitano has the most gorgeous dapples, and I just love getting lost in his dapples. I sit there looking at his dapples and counting them and watching them move as he moves around the field. And, you know, it's just, and the appreciation that I have for this horse is just so intense, and he knows it. He knows it. He, you know, he's a very difficult horse, or had the reputation of being so, and is a little bit like a lamb now because of the work that we've done together to, you know, if I changed my mindset, he was going to change his, and he did. So that's your assignment for those
Perfect.
of you enough.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Liz.